What's poppin', players? Welcome back to a new episode of the Piggy Bank. Piggy Bank.
Where's Phil?
Where's Phil? Phil? He's out of
the
town.
leader.
He's doing. I know. Yeah, he's our normal host. You got Tavin this week, which I've not hosted since like the third episode of the Piggy Bank or something like that. So now we're here. It's me, Tavin Bothel. Hello, and say hello to people. Connor Elliott.
Hello again.
Hello again. Yeah, so Phil's out of town, so we're just kind of kicking back, chilling. Might be a shorter episode, but me and Connor, we tend to vamp quite well, so maybe it'll be a longer episode. Connor, you want to talk for like just an hour and 20 minutes about Power Wash Simulator?
Shut up. You haven't even played the Warhammer expansion, have you?
No, which isn't out. You dumbass. Here we go. Well, Connor. Speaking of which, what have you been playing this week, my friend? Let's start with that.
I've been playing 2 games, both of which we will be doing reviews of eventually.
Oh.
Final Fantasy 16, which came out just this last Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
if you're watching live at twitch.tv/2pennygames, it is last Thursday. If you're watching on Saturday at youtube.com/@2pennygames and mainstream podcast services of your choice, links in the description for all the social medias, then you will know it came out last week, and our review for Final Fantasy 16 will be popping tomorrow.
But other than that, Yakuza 0 is the game that I and Phil and Tavin have been playing for the Piggy Bank.
Nope. Game Club.
For some reason, I don't know why I mix the two up. I don't know why. I do this all the time. The Game Club. The Game Club.
The Game Club. The ranking games, yeah.
We're all enjoying our time with. But how much? Spoiler. See? Double spoiler in 2
We're going to find out. This is one of those games that it could land anywhere in the list. Like, by the time we're all is said and done. I have a position that I feel like I'm going to put it at, and it may even go a little higher. Right now, it's fighting against one other game in my brain. And you'll have to watch the episode to find out what that is. But as of right now, where I'm in that game, which is chapter 6 of 17, I have it's fighting one game on the list right now of if it's going to go above or below that. And so I'm very excited to find out where you and Phil are at, which we have not talked a whole lot between each other about how we feel about the game, other than we all lamented that the beginning is very slow.
Definitely slow.
Other than that, we haven't said much else to each other. So I'm excited to see what we say.
And you guys should be too when you find out the review.
Indeed.
Where it lands.
So, review for Final Fantasy 16 happening tomorrow, and then the week after that is the Yakuza 0 review. I'm very excited to do that. What we also need to do, Connor, is we need to sit down and look at the rest of the year in terms of game releases and start assigning some reviews to each other, because we have not done that yet. And Final Fantasy 16 is the last game on our list from when we did it back in March. So we gotta get to work on all that.
Well, what games are coming out in this dry period?
I mean, is it a dry period, man? Because I feel like games are releasing every week at this point.
What even is coming out in July? Because June's pretty much done at this point.
Yes, June's done. Mm-hmm. So we're really looking at July, and what is it? June, July, August. August, I feel like, is probably going to be lighter than it has been in previous years. But maybe I'm just not looking at it right. So I'm going to pull up the Fantasy Critic right now. I'm sure you're looking up a year in the whole year calendar thing. So the next big thing is the thing that is upcoming in our fantasy draft is Pikmin 4, which happens at the end of July. Alongside Disney Illusion Island, which I want to play. Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, is August 3rd, which I also want to play.
Oh, is that the wait. Is that coming out? Where is that? I'm not looking at a good list. I realize that now.
I believe the Game Informer list is the one we usually use. That's pretty good. Usually is pretty well updated. You know what? I talked all that shit about August. August is actually pretty stacked with Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, which I will be playing. Immortals of Avium, we'll see. And then Armored Core 6 at the end of August. Oh my God, and Sea of Stars. Lord alive. We're just not getting a break this year, my friend.
Damn, Baldur's Gate 3 comes out at the end. Well, what comes out in September? Ah, great. Start for the next. That's great. That's just perfect.
Yeah, Starfield.
Yeah.
We got a busy time. What right now, my friend, is like what are the most anticipated games you have for the end of the year right now?
Well, I'm interested in actually jumping back into Baldur's Gate 3 because I've been playing the early access back when it came out, but I didn't really get far because I quickly realized, this doesn't really make it for me. The access game. I want the whole experience. I want all of the classes that the game has to offer, which it has updated to make it more playable for me. But I've been still just decided, I'll wait for when the whole game comes out. So that's one of the big ones I'm looking forward to. Stray Gods, the role playing musical, might be good.
Really?
That's gonna be a wait for. Yeah, I'll wait for the reviews on that one because.
Oh, that one surprises me from you.
Yeah, because there's just not many games coming out before then. You know, funny thing is I have a agreement with a friend that I will be playing probably next month, especially since there's nothing really coming out in July, to play Silent Hill 2. I'm going to be jumping onto that and trying out how that acclaimed game is gonna
hold up.
Me. Yeah, right. Which apparently, story-wise, very well. Gameplay blows, but I'll wait and see on that one.
We'll have to find out.
Really, Starfield is kind of when the beginning of things start to really come out in force, outside of Baldur's Gate 3 and Stray Gods, but
yeah. So we got Starfield on September 6th, and then Lies of P on September 19th. Are you jumping in on that one? I want to play that one.
I probably will, unless it's also not well reviewed. I won't waste my time on it.
Really? I think from what I hear and what people have been talking about the demo that's out, I think that's going to be a banger.
Yeah, my issue is it occupies that realm of being a Souls-like game, which can go one of two ways. Either be really stiff because it tries to be like those FromSoft games, but it just doesn't have the same soul as it, or is able to carve its own path for itself, which it might. And I have heard good things from the demo as well, but that's only a small segment of the game. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I have from several people who have played I'm holding off until the final game because I'm sold on the game. I've heard from people whose opinions I trust, where they're all like, this is the best like non-From Software Souls game like ever, and I'm like, all right, that's good enough for me. Like, they're hitting that close. Let's go.
Yeah, that might make me jump on that.
And then you don't have any interest in Mortal Kombat 1.
I have to play it though.
You have to play it.
Just because people I know, but I will see when that starts coming out.
Here we go. Let me look at GameSpot's
Depending on how much I like
list.
Starfield, I might just play a bunch of that.
I'm excited for Starfield. That one I think is going to be a full team, you, me, and Phil, all reviewing it. Because I think we're all excited and interested to see what that one has. So then, let me look through August real quick. No, I think that about covers it. Obviously, Armored Core 6. That one's gonna be you, right? You're in on that one, or?
Oh, I'm totally in on
it. Yeah. He said, "Are you kidding me? This is my favorite dev studio."
It is.
I feel like it's pretty safe to say this one is not gonna hit like the last couple of FromSoft titles have been hitting. You don't think so?
I don't know. I don't know.
So?
This is because it's an Armored Core game.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
So it has
that's why I think it's not gonna hit. Don't get me wrong, it's gonna hit, but it's not gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be a Game of the Year contender.
No, it might not be. I mean, really, I think what it depends on is the story, because it's not going to have the same From Software type story, to my knowledge. It's going to be more of a traditional narrative, and that tied in with the gameplay of, I should say gameplay influences of the Dark Souls of Bloodborne, because it is more, like I said, playing as an Armored Core game, at least from people who have played Armored Core games. That's the take I'm going with, because I haven't played them myself. But I think it's going to be able to connect in all those From Software players that have been around recently with the Armored Core players, while also kind of eliminating some issues that you have with it, like being interested in a story. So I think it might not hit, as you say, as hard.
They've also said,
hit
like, just in terms of game design, like, it's not like a world that you explore. It's mission based. You go out, you select your mission, you go and play it, and come back, and tinker with your build and so forth. So I think people who are all the people who are fresh off of Elden Ring are in for a shock. Like, these are not going to be the same games at all.
Doesn't need to be either, because I don't really want that whole open world game like Elden Ring had, even though I loved it so much. Because I'm already gonna have it with Starfield this year. I'm gonna have it with Baldur's Gate 3. It'd be nice just to not have a From Software title thrown into that mix as well. Especially with Lies of P, which is going to play, I think, structurally the same way as a lot of other FromSoft games.
I think it's also interesting to see what does a modern FromSoft do outside of a Soulsborne experience. Like, is it just they're good at this one thing, or are they able to, like, tap out and let's go do something completely out of our wheelhouse and experiment and see if we can broaden our horizons a little bit here. So like, what excites me is that I'm sure it's going to be really good, but it also has potential to fail, and that's what excites me. Not because I'm wishing failure upon FromSoft, not at all. I hope it's a great success, and I'm like positive it will. But the fact that they're willing to take a chance and do something that they haven't been doing for the last decade, that's cool to me.
It is. Yeah, I'm interested to get my hands on it.
I'll try it out. Let's see here. Payday 3, not really our wheelhouse. Actually, now I'm looking at it, September looks lighter than I was expecting. Obviously, Starfield in the front, so that's going to eat up a lot of time and a lot of air. And then Lies of P on the 19th. But other than that, I don't see anything that we need to talk about, at least on the channel. Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty comes out September 26th. For anybody who's interested in that, I don't know. I'm sure it seems like Phantom Liberty is going to be the redemption story for Cyberpunk 2077.
Probably, yeah.
And then we have October. And October is what fucks us. Because we have smaller things like Detective Pikachu Returns. Cool. Forza Motorsport comes out on October 10th. That's going to be big for a lot of people who care. Assassin's Creed Mirage on October 12th. Me and Phil have already discussed he's handling Assassin's Creed. I'm handling Alan Wake 2. And are you playing Lords of the Fallen?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, then I'm assigning a review for you for that one, buddy.
My job.
It doesn't need to be... you don't need to be on a time crunch, I don't think, for that one. But, we're gonna put you in on that one. It probably won't even be attached to a podcast or anything. We'll probably just record it whenever it's time to record it.
Yeah.
And then Alan Wake 2 on October 17th. So we go Assassin's Creed on the 12th, Lords of the Fallen on the 13th, Alan Wake 2 on the 17th. That's all in 1 week. And then a week from there, we have Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on October 20th. Super Mario Brothers Wonder on October 20th, same day, fuck me. And then Metal Gear Solid Masters Collection on October 24th. And the way me and Phil have discussed it right now is that first weekend that happens after the 20th, which I believe is the 22nd, Phil will be the lead reviewer for Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I'll jump in and try it out and see what's going on. But he's going to, marathon that and crush that weekend. And then we're all going to play Spider-Man throughout the week. You can be in on the review or not, Connor. That's up to you. And then I'll be taking the lead on Spider-Man 2, is what we've discussed so far. And somewhere within there, I'm going to be squeezing in some Metal Gear Solid streams. Hell yeah.
Yeah, as you're contractually obligated to.
No, not. I just really want to.
No, you're contractually. Yeah, we have a deal going on behind the scenes. You always have that.
Yeah, that's why we keep doing these videos that nobody watches, is because I'm being paid by Konami to play their games.
Big Konami.
Lovely to see. November's pretty barren except for Persona 5 Tactica and Super Mario RPG, which both land on November 17th. I want to play both of those games. That sucks. And then December looks empty as of right now, but we will see.
Things will come out, I'm sure.
Something will. Yeah, something will. So yeah, it looks like, Connor, let me double check July. Was there anything in July that I was like, I want to play that? I don't think there is.
No.
Disney Illusion Island on July 28th. So Connor, I think it's time that I try myself out some Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Is that your month for it, huh?
I think July is the month for it. Once we get past this Final Fantasy 16, But again, I'm still playing Street Fighter 6. I'm still playing Diablo 4. I'm still playing. I'm playing Final Fantasy 16 and Yakuza and whatever our July game is going to be. For the game club. You know, there's still a lot of things that I want to play, but I might July / early August or most of August, because I don't see anything in August that like is a Tavin game except for Sea of Stars. Immortals of Avium, I'll try if the reviews are good.
Which maybe they won't be.
Yeah, but Armored Core. I just talked about how I was gonna play Armored Core, but you know, like I'm not like committing to Armored Core.
You better.
I gotta put hands on Tears of Kingdom at some point. You know, I just have to put hands on it. One of the
Tavin,
biggest games of the year. Gotta have an opinion about it. Even though you know, I had the wrong opinion about Breath of the Wild, but we'll see about Tears.
Oh, you admit that your opinion is the wrong one.
I've always said I'm wrong. I've always said I'm wrong. Like I've never said I'm right. Like,
what's happening? Right and wrong is dictated by the beholder, meaning you. So is there really a wrong and right answer?
You know what? This spring, you're treading along something that I was thinking about talking about on the podcast, but I guess I won't. I do most of the managing of the TikTok account that we have. Follow us on TikTok, 2Penny Games. You've been putting out some great videos, by the way. Recapping news and gameplay demos and impressions and stuff. So that's been great. Go watch all of those. We've got one just now out on Assassin's Creed Mirage, where we talk about Assassin's Creed Mirage. That one's a great video. And our Starfield video was also fantastic. Great work. I've been putting out recaps of the game club, specifically where we're ranking the game and how those are going right now. I'm only 3 deep in right now. We've only gotten the up to Chrono Trigger. Portal is next. And on the side, you know, I just post little dumb TikToks if I see a fun gaming video or something that I want to, you know, poke fun at or whatever. And it was something about Web of Shadows, where someone posted that like Web of Shadows was better than Spider-Man 2018, which is just wrong. And so I made a TikTok making a joke about that. And then somebody replied with a comment about how Web of Shadows has the best combat. And I said, hey man, no, it doesn't. You're blinded by nostalgia. Go back and put an objective view on it and try it out. Like, you know, come in with fresh eyes. Don't be blinded by your nostalgia or your love of the game. Like, look at it like objectively. Now, Connor, when I say that, that means like just look at it fresh. Like, you know, put your critic hat on and pick it apart. Somebody took my video, which was just replying to a TikTok. It took me 60 seconds to make. And made a whole YouTube short, at least a YouTube short on it. I haven't found it on TikTok, but I found a YouTube short. And like they like blacked out the name and they were like, hey man, like, you know, you shouldn't be so focused on objectivity. This is a subjective medium and all this. So like that doesn't, like, if things are objectively true, like that doesn't lead to interesting conversation. Hey, bro, dude, listen to me. The two can coexist. They are two different things that can exist at the same time. Something can be objectively good or bad, and you can subjectively like or dislike it. Those things exist. Breath of the Wild is objectively a great game, as agreed upon by the Vox Populi of people who played the game. I can objectively look at that game and say, it's a great game. It does this, that. Awesome. Hey, I've got critiques on this, and that, and because of these critiques, I don't like the game. That is something that is the minutia of the conversation. Like, and you can't. I hate the argument of, oh, there's nothing is objective. You can't look at anything objective. It's all subjectivity and how you're coming into it. There's an element of truth to that, but we can all look at something and be like, oh, this was crafted by people who knew what they were doing and they were at the top of the game, yada, yada, yada. Like, you can't look at a Naughty Dog game and be like, that's ugly. You can't do that. No. Like, those games are beautiful. You can't look at a FromSoft game and say, that the exploration in those games is bad. You can't do it. Like, the exploration in those games are phenomenal. But
It's all about whether you like it or not.
yeah, like it's just like it's just like a thing of like, yeah, it's great, but I don't like it. Like that, those are two different things. Like, it's like me saying like, oh, this image or this real-time strategy game is really well made, but I don't like it because it doesn't appeal to my senses as a gamer. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
just a little bit of a rant on that because hey, first time anybody's like just taken one of our videos and made a response video to it, and that was cool. That was cool to see. Meant that
we like that kind of.
Well, I invite that. Do more of that. But like, you know, like
You're just wrong.
You're just wrong.
Yeah. Well, Tavin, admittedly, you have to admit, Web of Shadows that's the guy with the future Spider-Man, right?
No.
Oh, well.
No.
I can't even say anything on it.
You are either thinking of Shattered Dimensions or
Probably what I'm thinking of.
there was another one. Web of Time? I want to say something like that.
That's Nate. Damn, that's older than I thought.
Shattered Dimensions or Web of Shadows?
Web of Shadows.
Oh yeah, that's an old one. It's an old one. You got to play it the symbiote suit. Terrible voice acting in that game. Terrible voice acting. Just the worst.
It's got Wolverine in it though.
That's the one with the. No, it's not Hugh Jackman. That is the one with the. I believe it might have been. What's his name? Bulletstorm.
Oh yeah. This the worst thing.
Yeah,
I cannot say that.
Yeah,
He's one of the great.
Steve Bloom. Thank you. I literally said his name last night, like talking about something else. I was like Steve Bloom. But yeah, I just couldn't remember at the moment. It might have been Steve Bloom, but I could be wrong. But Web of Shadows is the one with the Spider-Man meme where he's walking away slowly and like everything's exploding behind him and so forth.
Oh,
yeah, that's where that comes from. It's really stupid. It's really stupid. Anyways, Connor.
Steve Bloom. It was Wolverine.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah.
Let's jump into our first mini game of the day. Listen, that little punk Phil is out of town, you know? That means you and I can talk about some real gaming stuff right here. So,
fake guy here.
I know, not get the fake out of here. You know, it's time for some real gamers. Step and play Sonic. You're gonna stab him in Sonic again?
Yep. Sonic and what's that? Mega Man playing as a dumb little blue guy. Oh, what? You couldn't play as the red guy in Mario? You had to go for the blue guy? Phil, come on, man.
Play
something. Come on, play something good.
Yeah, Phil, the Mario hater.
He is. He hates Mario.
Is, indeed.
That's why he goes for the blue guy instead.
Connor, we're doing a draft pick list. We're gonna do the best Resident Evil games. All right, we're each gonna have 5 picks. We're gonna go back and forth. I am going to flip a coin. I'm gonna flip a coin, Connor.
Hey, I'm
Good.
sorry.
You got that on.
You guys, shut up. You guys are being really rude and talking trash.
You're not supposed to be here. Shut up.
You're not supposed. Get out of here, Phil. Get out of here.
Yeah,
Connor, it's tails, which means you go
I am
first.
a real gamer. I hate you. But goodbye.
I'm gonna mute his ass. Connor, what is your first pick for a 5-round draft pick of best Resident Evil games?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna go with my favorite Resident Evil, Resident Evil 5. I had to get it.
You're gonna jump out the gate with Resident Evil 5?
Right up there. See, underrated Resident Evil entry.
It is.
Nothing can tell me otherwise. I don't think I've had more. Resident Evil 2 Remake is a better game. It's a fun game.
Connor, there are at least 4 Resident Evil games better than Resident Evil 5.
But you see, that's the thing. Objectively, most definitely. But subjectively, I got to give it to Resident Evil 5.
Connor, it's picks like these. You keep losing these competitions because of picks like these, man. Like,
I think I am winning them. You know what? My next pick, just to give you a little insight, is going to be Raccoon Operatives, the multiplayer one.
No, not Operation Raccoon City, please,
Operation
Connor.
Raccoon City, yes.
You couldn't even get the game name right. All right, well, I'm gonna start with Resident Evil 2 remake, which is the best Resident Evil game and the best survival horror game of all time.
Objectively, that is untrue because objectively,
This is the running theme of the episode.
it is. Isn't that what you've made it as such? And it is going to be the case because the actual best Resident Evil game, all jokes and subjectivity aside, is Resident Evil 4 remake. I do love that Resident Evil 4 remake.
That was gonna be my next pick. It's a
Of
great
course
game.
it is.
Great
It
game.
is. Great game.
Yeah. Very, very fun game. The further I get away from that game, the more I appreciate it. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
we're like I played it at first and I was like, it's good. It's really good. I really like it. But the further I get away, I go, yeah, that game was really good. That game was really fun. A lot of
Fun
dope
time.
action in that game. I didn't like the boss fights, but dope action.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, you took RE5.
This is where it gets harder.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go Resident Evil 1, the HD remake.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
Of course you are. Mhm.
Yeah, great game. Love that game. Some say the best remake ever made. Some say still the best Resident Evil game. Some say. I disagree, but it's a great game. I love it a lot.
Well, might as well be boring. Resident Evil 4.
Oh, back-to-back
original.
RE4s. Interesting.
Uh-huh. Might as well. I did like that game. Not as much
See-
as other people did, but I liked it.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that from you, but I'll take it. Fine, if you want to double dip on the RE4, that's fine. I'm gonna go. Now we've got a theme going between our two lists, and I'm going Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Revived the series, brought it back from the depths, gave us a great premise, a great new perspective, and the Baker House is just as good as the Spencer Mansion, just as good as the RCPD. Just not a great ending to that game, but overall a really good game.
Well, that is objectively true.
God, shut the fuck up.
But no, it's also objectively true that it's a better game. Mechanically. Story-wise.
God, here we go.
Was Resident Evil Village. See, this is all predictable.
See, these are the two Resident Evil fans. You have the puzzle room, explore the building, and get the keys for the different things. Guy like me, or you have the action guy like you, where it's like, just let me unload on everything with a shotgun.
Yes, it's fun. It's a fun feeling. Makes you feel powerful, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we're very quickly entering the territory of Resident Evil games we either don't like or haven't played.
Yeah. A lot of them.
Yeah. So what is this? Is this number 4 now?
This is number 4 for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You just did your
No.
4
Yeah.
in Resident Evil Village.
You have the hard position here.
It is. It's the thing of like, do I go for one of the more modern games that maybe isn't as good, or do I go for one of the older games that isn't as approachable? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And since you double dipped on Resident Evil 4, Connor, I'm gonna double dip on Resident Evil 2, and I'm gonna do the original Resident Evil 2.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't go Resident Evil 3. I thought that was next on your the chopping block.
I thought about it. It was a thought in my brain, but I decided Resident Evil 2 had a bigger impact on gaming, refined all of the things about the original Resident Evil that didn't work so well, and I think created characters that people care more about.
That's fair. And I'm gonna go with one that I haven't played, but it's actually the one that out of all the Resident Evil games I've most wanted to play, which is going to be Resident Evil Code Veronica. Which I've heard is
Yeah, that was on my list.
Yeah, I've heard it's a very good one. Claire Redfield's. Oh, back in the day before 3 came out, and I really started liking Jill Valentine, was one of my favorite. I would say Leon's still ultimately my. Wow, that's the thing about the Resident Evil games. The main characters are they're not like
You got
super
6 main
standout,
characters.
But they're good. But they're good though.
Yeah.
They're all good. They're enjoyable in their own way. And Claire back in the day was my definitive one. And so I'd like to actually get, especially now that I'm more grown up, play the game where she's the star of it. Or
A lot
one
of
the
rumors
games
about
where she's the star.
Code Veronica is going to be the next remake one.
Makes sense.
I mean, it's either going to be that or 5, but 5 is weird. How do you remake 5? I don't know. So probably Code Veronica.
Mm-hmm. But I would like to see 5 the most.
I would like to see Code Veronica because I like you. I like Claire a lot, and I'd like to see Claire return to the spotlight more than Chris. But you know, I don't know. Resident Evil's weird, man. It's weird, and also we've got like a Resident Evil 9 probably coming at some point. Whatever form that game takes place, could be weird. And so now for my final pick, Connor, that's tricky. So to run it down again, you have Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Resident Evil 4, and Code Veronica. Is that right? Is that all of them?
Village.
And Village. I forgot Village. Whereas I have Resident Evil 2 Remake, I have Resident Evil HD Remake, I have the Resident Evil 7, and I have Resident Evil 2, the original.
So
what do I want to finish it off with? You know, what is the thing that is going to... Great list, by the way, Connor. You pulled it out at the end. You started with RE5, but you immediately switched it back up and tightened it up.
It was inevitably going to be on your list.
Oh yeah, it was going to be number 3. It was going to be my number 3. I was gonna go RE2 remake, RE4 remake, RE5 is what the order was. God, and now it's really tricky. I guess, yeah, man. I'll just go ahead and I'll just grab. It's not the best in the series, and arguably the original is better from what people say. But I am gonna go the Resident Evil 3 remake.
Well, Tavin, the only mainline Resident Evil game that's not in here is 6, and that's a good thing. So as long as that was achieved, that's a good pick.
You know, we won. Yeah, we did. Really, honestly, we won. We really did hit every mainline game. Like, even Code Veronica, which was supposed to be 3, and then it wasn't 3, and it was a mess. So, anyways, good draft pick. Good times.
Yeah, it was a good one. And you know, I'll ask you. I'll ask you here, because you did mention Resident Evil 9 about being weird, but I think that game has a lot of potential to be super interesting, because they've, with Resident Evil 2 Remake, really gotten down, and when they kind of played around with Resident Evil 3 Remake, and then Resident Evil 4 Remake, they really brought their A game, at least in my opinion, the most. Though, of course, Resident Evil 2 Remake should not be scoffed at all, because the quality in those games is basically, you know, right by each other.
Well, these are different teams.
Well,
so you have to look at the progression of 7, 8, 9. That's one team, and then the remake team with 2, 3, and 4.
Well, how would 9 play? Because it's not going to, I don't think, be that first person anymore. It's going to be the one they've been doing recently with all the remakes, the third person classic Resident Evil. And I think this, when you think about it, it's the first time they're going to be doing that kind of game from the ground up. You know, because we knew what Resident Evil 4 Remake was going to basically be. We knew relatively what 3 was going to be, even though they cut a lot of content. Resident Evil 2 Remake, of course, as well. This is the first time where they're really going to be able to just go whichever direction they want while having that gameplay experience that we've all really been enjoying for these past couple of years.
It's now a question of, what does that team do now? Do they do a Resident Evil 9, or do we double dip on remakes? Because we have a number of options to go in terms of the remake area. I think the Resident Evil 4 remake, I think it would be smart because they've kind of dialed in the action feeling of 4 and how that feels, and I think it's great. It feels great to play. I think that team goes off and figures out how to remake 5. I think what would be cool is if we remake either Code Veronica or Resident Evil 1 again. It'd be kind of like, really, we're going to remake that one again? But I think it'd be a cool idea. And now the question is do we do the behind the camera or behind the shoulder camera view for those? Or do we do first person? Or, you know, what? You know, I would guess we just kind of unify it all and just have it all be behind the camera, third person action type thing. And I think going back to Resident Evil 1 would be a good idea, because Resident Evil 7 was very clearly inspired by Resident Evil 1. The Baker house almost has the same layout as the Spencer Mansion, at least like in that big opening room where the house is divided into 2 separate wings and so forth. Like, there's literally, like, you walk into the front doors and it looks almost exactly the same. They did that intentionally. And so that team can create level design that looks like that like is complex, and you got to go get the keys in the different areas and run around and so forth. And I also think the Resident Evil, that team has better boss designs than the remake team has. I don't know why, but it just kind of feels like they do. I just liked fighting the Bakers, and I liked the boss fights in Village more than what I've been fighting with the remake team. Like the different versions of G. What's his name? The guy who made the T virus. Right? What the fuck is his name?
Gary? Graham?
No, it's like it starts with a W or some shit.
What?
No.
What? Not West Carolina.
Regardless, the just the different boss fights in the remakes have just not been, I don't think fantastic. Like the RE4 ones were probably the best, but they were fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like, fighting Jack Baker with the dual chainsaw was dope, or fighting Lady D on top of the tower was dope. Fighting the Lady Baker, the bug lady, was like kind of scary and so forth. So I think it'd be cool if what would that team do with Resident Evil 1 would be neat. Or we just do something super new. I think it'd be cool if they got into witchcraft. Fuck it.
Hey, the Resident Evil games are ridiculous by nature, so it's
Yeah.
within the realm of possibility.
Who knows? Anyways. Connor, speaking of survival horror, my friend, let's go ahead and dive straight into your mini game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what are we doing this week with you, my man?
Well, we're doing a draft pick as well. I know. Very
Listen, there's two of us. There's only so much we can do.
Yeah, we can't do our fun little games where two people go head on head against another, since there's not a moderator to do it. But I'm going to do the draft pick of best horror segments in gaming. It doesn't have to be in non-horror games. It could be from any game, regardless of the genre it is. Just what scared you the most, what made you feel terror the most. So I guess you want to go first, since I won the last coin toss?
Oh, sure, that would be fair. I appreciate that. I'm gonna go I'm gonna pull for Resident Evil 2 remake, and I'm gonna go the first encounter with the Lickers. And this kind of feeds into personal bias a little bit, but that first reveal, they blow out the window, they have the rain coming in, the wind, you can't see the Licker, you see the tongue come out and grab a body and reach back up, and it like starts eating, and you're just like, holy shit. Like, you immediately know, I don't want to fuck with this thing. I don't want to be here. And this solidified in my brain, Connor, when both you and I can't remember how Phil reacted to it. I'll have to go back and look at the hype footage. But both you and I did the exact same fucking thing, where we immediately dipped into the STARS office for safety. And then when we came out, we again did the same thing, where the Licker's not there anymore. You don't know where he is. It's gone. And so you're walking down the hallway, you hear it, you know it's still there, you just don't know where. And they place it so perfectly, where that hallway turns. It turns into a corner, and there's nothing in the corner that you can see. And right in front of the corner, on the roof or on the ceiling, is a vent. And it's big enough for a Licker to hide in. And there's a blood entrails coming out of it. And you're like, oh, that motherfucker's in the vent. And remember, you're still early in the game, so you don't know what the Licker can do. You don't know what the game is capable of at throwing you in terms of gameplay mechanics and so forth. So you're like, is this how they introduce vent mechanics? If you do this. So both you and I locked eyes on that vent. I did it in my own personal playthrough, and then I watched you do it, and it was awesome, where we're just like, it's coming out of that vent, it's coming out of that vent, it's coming out. And you just like slowly start sneaking by the vent, and you hit that corner, and you're looking up at it, and you hit that corner, and right as you hit that corner, you come face to face with the Licker. He's not in the vent, he's just right around the corner waiting for you. I don't know if that must have been intentional. They must have done that on purpose. Like, there's no way they couldn't have done that on purpose, because the Licker goes there every single time. If you dip in and come back out. So you just look at like the way they crafted that hallway was horrifying. I thought it was so scary. That introduction is so just blood chilling. And it was awesome. I have very fond, like, I just remember being horrified in that bit.
Doing your typical Tavin. Oh,
Yeah. It was
Just
100%.
others.
I'm gonna pause the game, and I got out of my chair and I took a lap, and I was like,
Yep.
fuck me, man.
Well, Resident Evil's scary, isn't it?
It is.
It's so scary that it's going to be on my first pick as well.
Hey,
Yeah.
there we go.
And I think you might know what it is, and that is I'm going to mispronounce this, Benevento? How do they pronounce it in the game? Benevento? Resident Evil
The
Village.
I forget. You're going to the house, the house, the second house with the dollhouse.
That scene, I have not been more scared in a video game since then or before then. Like, just
Bro.
pure, just on the edge of your seat terror until you get away from that damn freak. hiding around in the
Benevento?
basement.
Benevento? I
Benevento?
think so,
Yeah.
God, man.
Just, and the worst part is I knew it was coming. I had seen images of what was going to be chasing me through those damned halls. I saw this in the atmosphere, but the moment I was actually in game, was completely different. I couldn't see anything in front of me. I didn't actually know how it functioned when you were trying to navigate through the house to get that power online to open that elevator. I didn't know it was going to do a timing thing where you didn't know if the elevator was going to open in time, though it specifically, if you do it the correct way, times it just right to where the doors open right when it's in the same room with you. You get in, and right when it's coming up to the elevator doors, it's just closing and not going to be able to get in. But when you first do it, you don't know that. So you're just thinking, come on, game, be quicker about it.
Yeah.
Come on. Am I going to die this horrible, horrible way because the game's slow? And you never do. At least in my case, I never did. But it just scared me at the time. And I know
It's great.
Scared everybody as well.
Oh, yeah. Hall of Famer moment right there.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most recent entry to happen in our pick here. We're gonna struggle for 5 of these.
We are, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was really great. And I remember that moment just being just the scariest moment in that I had felt in a long time. That like I think that's like the peak Resident Evil moment, like in terms of like horror. Like this is scary.
Yeah. Terrifying. Only real scary part of that game. At all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple other moments that could be kind of spooky, but like that's the only part that you're like, oh my god. And next, I'm between 2. Now, what? Define to me the parameters of this, Connor.
If it scared you, it's viable on this list. Fear is subjective.
Okay,
Some
because I'm
people
gonna
are
go. I'm gonna
be
go
scared.
kind of general here.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna say exploring the Ishimura, the USG Ishimura, in Dead Space, specifically like now in the Dead Space remake, it was effective back in the day, but like you look at that first Dead Space game and it doesn't really hold the water anymore. But now in the remake, it does. Like exploring the USG Ishimura is kind of scary the whole way through. Like it's never not like. Your hair is never not on end. It never hits like peak horror moments like some of the Resident Evil moments that we've already talked about. But in terms of just having a long-term effect, hair standing up, always like, at any moment something could pop out of a vent, especially with the, I talk about it in the review, that new system that they have, it's that system that like randomizes events as you explore and as you go through rooms and come back in different rooms where there's a bunch of creative events that like something could pop out of a vent could go into hyperdrive, you could hear someone screaming in another room, the lights will flicker, all of that. Just Dead Space Remake really nailed atmosphere and environment and really like rejuvenating what was a great survival horror game and turning it up to 11 and giving it such a great update in ways that like you just never felt before. Also, it being more open, like you're not going through so many loading screens. You can go from one end of the Ishimura all the way to the other without a break and whenever you want. Really added to that as well.
That speaks a lot to the atmosphere of Dead Space. It's It's very much horror based on the atmosphere
Yeah.
rather than the enemies that you're facing. Because once the enemies pop out, you're just in the fight.
Yeah,
And
it's
the
just a
fight's
matter
not
of
really
fighting
all
him.
that
Yeah,
scary.
yeah.
But you're just waiting for when the fight happens. That's always the scary part.
Dead Space also really good at doing like the Velociraptor thing in Jurassic Park, where you think the threat is in front of you, but actually it's behind you or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
There were many times in the remake here where like I thought I was fighting something, and then something would sneak into view, and the camera is placed perfectly where the thing comes into view and you see it creeping up on you, but it's just in time for you to see it before it attacks. So you go, oh shit, and then it grabs you, and that's awesome.
Man, horror games are scary.
They are.
Even sometimes relatively non-horror games can be scary, though you might attach the brand to it, like The Last of Us. Which would you consider that a horror game, Tavin?
Elements of it. I think the second one dips into it more than the first one.
I agree. There's more scary moments in that game, numerous scary moments. But the first one that really caught me off guard was in the original Last of Us. I had to look it up to try and describe it. The hotel keycard and generator room, where it's kind of the first time you get separated from Ellie, and you land by yourself in this underground segment of a hotel, and you got to work your way up. And it's and you fight against waves of enemies. It's in a spore-filled room, but they come in drips. The enemies, and they come from areas where you cannot see where they're coming from. It's the first time the game really introduces any horror element, like true horror elements to it.
I believe it's the introduction into the stalker type. I believe they're called. I believe it's called the stalker types. Yeah.
It was. Which they don't really. They're used a lot more in Last of Us Part 2, but they're used very sparingly in 1. I think there's only maybe one other segment.
There's 2 or 3 segments. It's in this hotel bit that you're talking about, and then in the sewers when you're with Sam.
Yeah. No, who's the kid?
It's Sam or Henry. It's one of those. I think it's Henry. Wait, when you get separated from Ellie and the older brother, and I believe the older brother is Sam, and then you're with Henry for a little bit. That's there. Revitalized in The Last of Us Part 1 remake. It makes it clearer, and the stalkers behave more like how they behave in the second game.
It's when you were Sam, little kid.
Sam is the little kid?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
He's the younger brother. Mm-hmm.
Good pick. But that hotel moment specifically, and then it ends with a bloater, and you're like, fuck me, man.
Yeah. Funny enough, the bloater's the least scary part, because when he comes up, it's like, okay,
I just gotta run to the door.
Yep, run to the door, throw Molotovs at it.
Yeah.
Molotovs is the best weapon against those guys.
Oh, so good. That's a great moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to double back to Resident Evil. And where I think I'm going to go with it is the Resident Evil 1 remake. The reveal of the Crimson Head.
Yes.
Where, if you don't know, in the original Resident Evil, it's just normal zombies. You got threats, you have a certain number of resources, you have to, judge your risk reward at eliminating the threat. Is it worth keeping the threat there and just kind of dodge it and move past it, or is it worth, spending your very valuable resources and just killing it, and so the threat is removed from the room? In the remake, they added the effect of killing a zombie puts a timer on it, and eventually that timer goes off, and when it does, that zombie becomes a Crimson Head, which are faster, stronger, and more resilient versions of their previous zombie selves. You cannot outrun a Crimson Head. If it's in the room with you, it runs faster than you. So you better dip into another room real quick,
or fight it.
Or you later, after the first reveal of the Crimson Head, get the lighter and the lighter fluid, and you start lighting zombie bodies on fire. But that first time, because they frame it perfectly, because it's cued to when you unlock a specific door, and it just, the way it pops up, it does like the creepy like gets on its feet first, and then like the rest of the body follows. So the head is the last thing to come up. And it's just like just off right of the frame, like it's framed perfectly, and the way it just pops up and then starts running at you scares the shit out of you. It's so good. And it just adds a threat, because sometimes you don't have your lighter fluid and you need to kill a zombie, and then like you come back and forth into that room and you're looking at the body and you're going, does it look different? I don't know. It kind of does. And you're like, let me see if I can just kind of walk past it. And just that tension that builds where you're like, please don't get up, please don't get up, please don't get up, please don't get up. And then it gets up, and the way that tension comes up and you go, ah, and then suddenly everything else is going wrong. And yeah, awesome. Really well crafted atmosphere, really great twist. Because if you're familiar with the original Resident Evil, you're like, oh, things are going normally, a couple things are in new places, whatever, everything's looking great, I love how it looks and plays and all this, and then that Crimson Head first pops up and you go, what the fuck? And now suddenly veteran players are on the same level as newbies, and that's a great twist.
That is a very good one. Crimson Heads terrified me the first time I played that game.
Oh yeah, they made me stop playing it. I was like, I can't fucking handle this. This is too much.
That was funny. The hunters in that game did it for me back when I first played. Not this recent time. I blew through it, but I was like, okay, I'm done playing this game. I don't want to deal with
the hunters are like very definitely dreadful. And I definitely screamed a couple times when they come through. But every time they came through, I always went, oh God, really? All right, I guess I'll deal with it. And the one-hit kills, I hate one-hit kill enemies.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Especially in Resident Evil, where there's a lot of backtracking if you didn't save properly.
Yeah. Which happened to me once or twice in our game club playthrough. Love that game.
I only died once in that game, and it was the dumbest reason in the world.
I definitely died more than once.
Well, I'm not going to be in the Resident Evil space with this next one.
Where are we going, Connor? Where are we going?
One of my favorite horror games of all time, one that I actually played twice at minimum, maybe even 3, which was Outlast. I really enjoyed playing that game.
Oh, yeah.
It took the streaming world by storm at the time. I don't really watch streamers, so I was isolated in my experience of the game. It's still to this day fun to see other people play it because they just get so scared. And there's a lot of cool enemy types. There's the big Do
you have a specific moment that you're talking about?
Yes, because it has those like specialty characters that are supposed to scare you. The big guy who chases you through the hallways, Dr. Traeger. All those are very scary. But honestly, the scariest part of that game, even on subsequent playthroughs, because it's honestly the hardest part of the game, is technically the first encounter you have with just a random guy in a sewer trying to turn back on the power so you can open the door to get on. You go through a crack in the wall, and you're in a very, very dark place. And this guy, once you turn on the first generator, starts stalking you. And the way the map is laid out, he's very hard to get around and stealth from.
Okay, yeah, I remember this guy.
Yeah, so in other games, you kind of are able to get around those scarier, characters due to the way the map is laid out. This one, you just were always hounded by him. And every single time you turn on a generator, he would come in. And then, even if you would avoid him, which was easy when you first popped in, you just had to know, okay, hide in the locker, he's not going to find you. But when you were trying to leave that segment that you were in, particularly the one that you had to go through a long hallway to get to, you're like, okay, if he comes back this way, I have to go all the way back. And so going through the hallway to just get to the main generator room was always a difficult task. Once again, even on subsequent playthroughs, it was just a harder segment of the game, which made it more scary, especially since you're just now finding out how to play the game. And I was trying to think of, because I knew that game overall scared me, and I was trying to think of the scariest part to it, and I was arriving at Dr. Traeger, but then I remembered that guy, and I'm always scared of him. I love that game.
Interesting. I didn't know Outlast meant so much to you.
It does.
I did not remember that moment, but you've sparked it in me, so now I kind of do. We're in turn 4 now.
You are, yes. That was my third pick.
Okay. This is where it starts to getting difficult.
It is.
I want to grab something from Last of Us Part 2, but I can't remember any specific moment. Oh, of course. How could I not remember? Rat King, baby. Let's go.
Oh, really? That scared you?
Oh yeah, that's horrifying. That's very frightening. I was very upset during that entire encounter. Because they time it so perfectly. Like, something big is there. You're dreading having to face it. You're gonna have to, and its appearance is grotesque and disgusting. And you're judging your valuable resources and all this, and how much it's gonna take to take you down. And it is a one-hit kill enemy, but I think it gives you enough room to breathe. to where you can get through it pretty easily. But yeah, and then it like starts splitting away from itself, and now you got to deal with a smaller little fucking thing chasing you and so forth, and the big thing at once, and it's scary, man. It's scary. It definitely. I have a friend who is working her way through Last of Us Part 2, or she just recently finished it or something like that. And I remember that was the moment that like she hit me back and went, or she randomly messaged me and she went, "Man, that fucking mob of fucking flesh was no, that was awful." And I was like, yeah, that was a great moment. So yeah, I'm gonna go Last of Us Part 2, Rat King.
See, now I'm faced with a difficult decision because there is a segment that was scary in Last of Us Part 2, but I want to diversify things. So I'll give myself a little bit more time to think about it and go with another game, a non-horror game. I know, Tavin. I know. I've mentioned it so many times.
Where are we going here?
But I'm jumping to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. You might think, oh, I'm just trying to reach, but it legitimately has, and I've seen other people, say the same thing. One of the best horror segments in gaming. I think definitively the best horror segment in a game that's not horror.
Oh, got you.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, no. It's the Ocean House Hotel.
Okay.
It's a haunted house. It's what it is. It doesn't have jump scares. It's entirely just dreadful when you're going through it. It uses lighting. It uses sound effects of you hearing things off in the distance, seeing apparitions of little children, of weird random figures walking just across the hallway when you're going down a long hallway. Bad way to describe that. It has its own little story that you kind of piece together as you're going through. So it spins a little bit of a narrative while you're doing this, just seemingly basic side quest. But it just scares you the entire way through. You're just on edge, and it just kind of teases you because it very rarely ever explodes, except for like one moment, into any kind of crazy thing. And so you're just kind of waiting. Okay, what's gonna happen next? Am I gonna get Oh god, it's hard to describe it because it's just the single moments as you go through it, but it's super fun. It's super fun to go through. There's actually a way to skip it that was included in the game because people were scared of it. So
wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a good horror segment. When we eventually play that, I'll be excited to see if you guys think it's scary as well.
That's dope. Okay. And now we're in the last one.
Yes.
And I have a couple in mind. I'm not in love with any of them. Right now, Connor, what I'm doing is I'm scrolling through my PSN profile, psnprofiles.com/Tasman1220, to just kind of rejuvenate any moments here, anything that's going to stand out to me. And I'll be honest, I'm not seeing anything. Just a whole lot of nothing. Just a lot of nothing that's going to help me out here.
Something finally clicked, huh?
All right, listen. I have to do this. I'm voting with my heart, not with my brain. This is not a super scary moment, right? It's really not. But I have to talk about it because it's arguably the moment of the game. There's very few moments throughout the game, throughout the franchise, that matches this moment. And just talk about just dread filling you, where you go, ooh, I don't want to be here. You're not, like, scared, necessarily, because it's just not a scary game. It's not a horror game by any stretch of the imagination. But you're just kind of, like, just dreading being there. You don't want to be there, The game is kind of shaking its finger at you, and you're kind of like, yeah, you're right, game. I am, yeah, this is my fault. And I have to go with Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, The Sorrow.
Yeah, you always bring this up, don't you?
Listen, I think Last of Us Part 2 is a great action-adventure game, a pretty good survival horror game. I think it's got one of the most impactful narratives in all of gaming. I think it's arguably gaming's first true tragedy. There's a couple of other examples that you could point to that could be tragedies, but I think Last of Us Part 2 is like knee deep in the genre of tragedy. Like, it is intentionally like, we are tragic. We are not trying to make you feel good by the end of this at all. And we're giving you all these messages and meanings and themes and all these things about violence and the cycle of revenge and breaking free of that cycle and replacing it with love and showing mercy and all this. All of those themes get encapsulated in the 10-minute segment that is Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater with the Sorrow. This one 10-minute segment, also, punctuated by the boss and what she tells you at the end of the game, just fills you with dread as you walk through this creepy-ass monochromatic forest. You're walking through a river of the dead, and the forest is on fire around you, and the Sorrow is a spirit just taunting you, mocking you for trying to get back to the land of the living, mocking you for being so violent in your escapades. And while you're walking in this river, what's coming at you? The victims of all the people you've killed throughout the game. Boss fights, random guards, environment-specific guards that only show up in a couple of places. They show up. How you killed them shows up. Like if you're slicing throats, dudes with blood coming out of their neck are coming after you, and they're all trying to like grab onto you, very zombie-like. If you killed them in the mountains, there's like vultures pecking at them and torturing them in the afterlife. If you blew people up, there's guys on fire. And it's just like, it's kind of horrifying, like in terms of like imagery. Like the tone of the game and the atmosphere of the moment isn't super horrifying. Like you're not scared, but you are just like, ooh, yeah, I don't want to be here. Like, I want to leave. And it's also bookended with the fact that, like, they take away most of your gameplay mechanics. You can't fight the ghosts. You don't have weapons. You don't have your camouflage. You can't hide. You just have to go down this one pretty much hallway that is a river, and just face the consequences of your actions. And the first time you go through it, you're like, damn, this sucks. You later, like, you start playing the game and you're like doing non-violent playthroughs, and it's only the bosses that are showing up because the bosses canonically die, and you're like, all right, well, this is just a time sink. But that first time, or any time that you're like just kind of blowing dudes away, you feel it. Like, dramatic effect achieved. Good job, Kojima and team. So I'm gonna throw that one in there.
Then make you feel sympathy for Russians. Who would have thought? Well,
as of right now, Russians don't even feel sympathy for Russians.
not that I hate Russians or anything like that. I just hate the Russian government.
For
Two
sure.
different things.
For sure. Two different things.
I was debating on this last one, partly because it's a game we've already mentioned.
I'll be honest, Connor. I just didn't want to grab Resident Evil again.
Probably the best you didn't do that because I'm already going to be repetitive here.
Here we go.
There's a segment from Omori that I'd want to go with, but there's multiple. It's kind of multiple segments because the horror bits of that game are split up. It's not like the segments are even that long.
You can encapsulate them all together if you want.
I could, and I would, if it wasn't for something else. Which I just have to give credit due to what kind of horror it is, and something that means a lot to me specifically. And that's the height segment from The Last of Us Part 2, a game I have been critical of as on this podcast.
The height segment?
Yes. There's a point in the game where playing as Abby, you have to go on top of a tower, very high up, to get to a certain point in the game.
This is a great pick, Connor.
Yeah, it is. It is a good pick because it was very well done. Because I'm a guy who's, like I said, I'm petrified of heights.
Are you really? I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, I am. Nothing scarier in this world than heights, and not falling to death. Just looking over a large, and I love like high places as well, which kind of sucks. I like looking out at large landscapes, but still, just the threat of just like looking down and getting like this weird vertigo is always something that affects me. And something that always happens when I get to near a tall place is my palms get really sweaty. Like that's the most notable thing. I don't like freeze up unless there has been one situation in my life where I have frozen up when I've been on a precipice and I'm having to walk long, and the threat of falling is always there. And even though I've been through that, most of the time it's just that really sweaty palm feeling. And when you go over you go over the skyline of Seattle. That's where it takes place. Seattle, no, Chicago.
No, Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle. When you go over the skyline of Seattle, you're really high up. The main character has heights as well, and I was right there along with her. My palms were getting that same sweaty feeling, the same fear I feel when I'm looking over those large edges were encapsulated in a segment of a game. When you're trying to balance looking down at the cityscape, which is very well designed, the clouds that are up there with you, really all invoke the feeling that you're in a high place. And it seems like it was made specifically there for people who have a fear of heights to be a horror segment. Because for most people, I'm assuming it's probably just one where you go through and you're like, yeah, this is tense, but it's, I played Uncharted, I played Assassin's Creed, heights are heights. But it really,
I think tonally it's handled to the point to where it's tense. It's quite tense. I remember being like, oof, this is effective.
And it does so because the main character is scared of heights.
Yeah.
But as someone who also was scared of heights, you're right there along with her in the same kind of fears that she'd be going through of having to face it, especially her moments leading up to it, because she's clearly scared and worried about it. And the character you're with is kind of like, yeah, we just have to go with it's gonna be kind of dangerous, but we just gotta go do it. Just kind of casual about it. And Abby's just like terrified of it. And it also had the added benefit of being able to make fun of people who have the arachnophobia slider turned down in other video games, because I've been able to encounter my fears in the video game. You can't? Guess I'm just better than you. So there's that added element of just, yeah, you're a loser.
Okay, but the heights are not coming after you. The spiders are coming after them.
Fear's fear tab.
And the game doesn't want you to fall to your death. Like, a spider actively wants to kill you in video games. Come on now, son.
Not in real life. Spiders don't want to kill you. They're peaceable. Heights want to kill you, Tavin. They want to kill you. They have a mind of their own. Why do you think they're so high up?
Well, there we go with the picks right there. Some honorable mentions that I was thinking about. Resident Evil 3, going through turning the power back on, the remake, and the weird spider creatures that were after you and would throat fuck you if they got too close. That scared the shit out of me.
Strange. Very strange.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange.
But in a funny way.
Yeah.
Someone was getting off to that.
You already know. Outlast, Dr. Traeger, the surgeon character. Yeah, that was scary to me. That's the standout. That's where I thought you were going. And yeah, that guy
close to it.
Creeps the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could grab another dozen Resident Evil moments. I'm going to give a shout out to Alien Isolation. The reveal of the xenomorph in that game is very scary. Anytime the xenomorph, you have to face down with the xenomorph, is very scary. The xenomorph AI was done really, really well in that game. That AI would fuck with you intentionally, and you're like, what the fuck? But yeah, that was really great.
That's the game people always go to.
Alien Isolation.
Yeah, when it comes to scary AIs, just because.
God, I wish they would make more.
Well done.
I wish they would make another one. That one was so good. Bloated with a bunch of segments that weren't good, but the moments that were good were so good. This is a bit of a reach, but Don't Starve kind of always had horror thematic elements to it, and it was tense in moments. Heavy Rain has some very tense, very intimidating, very scary moments to it. I wouldn't call that horror, but it was definitely your heart would be in your throat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm gonna leave it there, Connor. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. There we go. Great minigame, cool. Great times. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the end of another great episode of the Piggy Bank. Remember, you can get this every Saturday at 8 a.m. Central Time, but you can watch it early on twitch.tv/2pennygames every Sunday, shortly, usually about 5 or 6 o'clock-ish, because we go live at 4 with the 2 Penny Games cast, which you can catch every Monday at 8 a.m. Links down in the description for things like our social media accounts and our TikTok. Please go follow all of that and subscribe and share with friends. Until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye. Thanks for coming.